FM. So we'll continue our discussion. We're talking about government rejecting recommendations by the Emil Short Commission to reprimand and prosecute key actors, citing among others the failure of the commission to address the most critical term of reference. We've been going through the white paper, and on the line with me is Ningo Prampram MP Sam George, and of course the Deputy Information Minister Pius Enam Hajide. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for staying with us. So Sam George, before we went on the break, you made the point about not hoping for justice from the government and not being too surprised by this. But I would want to find out from you, the commission in the report, we've been discussing it, talks about the fact that the person that slapped you, Mohammed Suleimana, was supposed to have been prosecuted for that. But the government explains that for the reason they are talking about provocation, that is how come they are rejecting that part of it. Is it something that you are satisfied with? Do you think that should stand?
Well, MFR, if you take the report, and I'm happy we have the Deputy Minister of Information on the line, I would love for anybody to show me any part of the report where the Commission says that I provoked anything. I would love for anyone to establish that for us, because nowhere in the report is it stated that I provoked anything, and that's a challenge I'm making.
Okay, so the part, I'll just read a portion to you. It says that while confirming the incident of assault, Suleimana informed the commission that he slapped the person he did not know was a member of parliament because the person insulted him and his ethnic group. That's how come he reacted the way he did.
MFR, if you take a report, that is not a finding of the report. The report is in different structures, or it has a structure, where they make the report of what the persons who appeared before the commission said. Reporting what was reported or what was said before the commission is not a recommendation of the commission. So if you want to talk about what the commission's findings were on the basis of the setting, you go to the findings and recommendation. What you're reading is not there. The portion that speaks about me is under paragraph 6 of the report. Go to paragraph 6 and see if you will find it anywhere. What you have read is not the position of the commission. It is the position of Mohammed Suleimana. And that is not the position of the commission. So let us not create something that doesn't exist.
And that's what government is making reference to.
What Mohammed Suleimana said before the commission does not constitute the position of the commission, first and foremost. Secondly, the defense that is being put up by the government, that provocation is a defense and for that reason they will not prosecute, is laughable. That is not the position of the president or his attorney general to determine. That is the position of the courts. But here you have a president and his attorney general who are seeking to be judge, jury, and prosecution in their own case. If you believe that is a valid defense, go ahead with the recommendation of the commission. Put the gentleman before court for criminal prosecution and plead your defense before the court. The Criminal Offences Act is clear on the grounds on which it spells out about 6 grounds on which provocation is a valid defense. Criminal assault is not one of those grounds. The Criminal Offences Act is clear. The Attorney General and the President are rewriting the Criminal Offences Act. But I'm not surprised. This is the Akufo-Addo government, where you have a clearing agent-in-chief who will constantly sweep under the carpet criminal conduct. As a member of parliament, and look, let's be very clear about one thing. I was there in my capacity as a member of parliament, duly certified by the Electoral Commission on the request of my political party as an election monitor. I wasn't there as just a bystander. I was there as an official accredited election observer for my party, doing a legitimate business. And even if with the office and position I held, state apparatus could be used in such high-handed manner, and the people who occupy the highest office of our land are not concerned about it, I am afraid for the ordinary Ghanaian, who would not have the voice like I may have found myself fortunate to have, to even have a commission of inquiry set up for him or her. This is my worry.
Well,
we have a state of affairs where people can act with impunity. Look, the gentleman we're talking about is a former party executive of the NPP. And that's why in my statement I said the president is covering up party political apparatchiks of his. Before he was enlisted into national security in 2017, he was a constituency executive member of the NPP. So this is simply covering up political party appendages of the president, who he's simply trying to protect, even though criminal conduct has been found on their part.
Well, Mr. George, let's bring in Mr. Pius Hajide at this point. You raised a number of pertinent questions that I'm sure you have answers to. Mr. Hajide, so the commission did not talk about provocation, upon which reason the man Suleimana Mohammed slapped Mr. George. The commission actually notes that the action of the said Suleimana Mohammed in responding to an alleged insult with a slap was unprofessional and must be condemned. So what's the difficulty in prosecuting?
Well, thank you, Emefa. I first of all have to begin by rejecting strongly the assertion made by Honorable Sam George of a purported cover-up. And let me inform the Honorable Member of Parliament that the decision to set up this inquiry was by choice of His Excellency the President, and that we have had a history of similar actions, in fact, worse forms of violence during by-elections, and no action was taken. And so to suggest that the same president who leads from the front and establishes a commission of inquiry to interrogate these matters and to assist in finding lasting solutions to these problems is rather the one engaged in a certain cover-up, for me, appears to be an attack on logic. It cannot be correct. It is not true. The assertion that members of the commission are of high caliber, yes, it's correct, but without prejudice to their caliber and to their integrity. It is a matter of course and of law that reports of commissions of inquiry can be accepted in part and rejected in part. And there are several commissions of inquiry made up of equally men and women of high caliber, men and women of high integrity, that previous presidents, including former President John Dramani Mahama, have had cause to accept portions of their recommendations and reject portions of their recommendations, to suggest that people have the commissioners are persons of high caliber, which caliber is not in doubt, to suggest that portions of their recommendations are not accepted is his basis to suggest a cover-up. It cannot be grounded. It has to be rejected strongly. And MFA,
yes, sir.
You see, the matters surrounding my colleague, my brother and friend, Honorable Sam George, I will take you to page 40 of the report, and on paragraph 2.1, the Commission in its report makes some comments that are fundamental, and they speak to the integrity of the honorable member as a witness before the Commission. Other aspects of the report speaks to his conduct on the day of the event, which the commissioners have so wisely described as unfortunate. Okay, and so his conduct actually has also come up for a discussion, and honorable member.
And which part does it talk about his conduct? Which part does it talk about his conduct?
I will find it for you.
Okay, so the only part I see the commission talk about the conduct is the 6.2 on page 55 that says that the commission further notes that the behavior of Mr. Sam George within the context of a highly charged environment was somewhat inappropriate and ill-advised and could have endangered his own safety. Is that what you're making reference to?
Well, that and more, and I will find and give you the quotation. But even that is enough that his own conduct has been called into question, and that the commissioners
so he should have been slapped. Is that what you're saying?
Those are not my words. Those are your words. That his conduct was, to borrow your own words. What did you say the commissioner said? But that is what it is. But the point I'm making is that if you read the report, for instance, on page 42.15, okay, there are comments there emphatic comments made by the commissioners that suggests that little weight should be put on any evidence that any such witness, somebody who may have lost some credibility before the commission, would adduce. But my brother is wrong when he says that the part that you read under assault on Mr. Sam George is not it doesn't fall under findings and recommendations. I think he should take a second reading. It does fall under Chapter 3, findings and recommendations. And so it is the finding of the commission that the Honorable Member of Parliament insulted and, for that matter, provoked somebody. It is under the heading Chapter 3, findings and recommendations.
Okay. But Mr. Hajide, quickly, we'll have to wrap up the conversation, but I want to find out from you. You've talked about this whole thing not being a cover-up, because we've heard the NDC also say that. Mr. Sam George has also said, others have also said, because especially with the part about the individual liabilities, we've talked about Ernest Akumia, for instance, government is rejecting his prosecution. We've talked about Suleiman Mohammed, government is rejecting his prosecution. The reprimanding of the Minister of State in charge of national security because of the role he played that day, leading to the violence that day, is also being rejected. All that has been rejected. How then do you explain when people say that it is a cover-up?
No, there have been where the few instances where there have been rejections, a lot of substantial explanation has been given. There have been instances where there have been contradictory commentary from the commission itself. In one breath, the commission, for instance, will say that the SWAT team went there upon intelligence to intercept arms. In another sentence, you find that they say the SWAT team went there on election security related purposes. These obvious contradictions, in the light of these obvious contradictions, some of the recommendations that flow from these obvious contradictions cannot be accepted without prejudice to the integrity and caliber of the people on the commission. And there are other, if you took every, and we can go through it one by one, you will find out that there's a reason why the state, the government is taking the position to accept. There are several other recommendations that the government has taken note of and has referred to the appropriate authority. There have been recommendations that border on prosecution, and you know that criminal investigations and prosecutions are in the reserve of the police CID. And so, rightly so, the white paper has referred those matters to those relevant institutions of state.
Okay.
The few ones that we are unable to, we have explained why we are unable to, and this is not a deviation from the norm. This is the standard practice.
I would have to let you go, Mr. Pius Enam Hajide. We are grateful for your time, but I'll wrap up with you, Mr. Sam George. So is this the end of the whole matter for you? You're going to allow sleeping dogs to lie?
There are a lot of options that are still available and open. I'm consulting with the legal representation that I have on the way forward. But let me just clarify something that Mr. Pius said. If you read 6.1, the commission, in reference to the comments about the insult or not, or the alleged provocation or not, this is what the report says. While confirming the incident of assault, Sulemana informed the commission that he had slapped the person he did, not knowing he was a member of parliament, because the person insulted him and his ethnic group. I wonder how our Deputy Minister for Information would read this and conclude that this is the finding of the commission, when in that paragraph it goes ahead to say the commission notes. So when we were making reference to that part, they said this is what Sulemana informed the commission. So the commission does not take ownership of what he says. This is a legal document, and he must get training to understand the document. Where the commission states its own opinion, the commission says the commission notes that the entire encounter between the said Sulemana and the said Honorable Sam George, resulting in a slap administered by the said Sulemana, was regrettable. That's the only position that the commission has made. And so we need to be clear in our minds that the whole attempt to plead provocation as a defense It is not the position of government to plead a defense in its white paper. It is the position of government to implement the report and go ahead and then let the gentleman make his defense of provocation in court and see if it will stand. But like I said, the wheels of justice may grind slow. We don't expect to get justice under this administration or under an administration led by Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. But we believe that no matter how long justice takes, the wheels of justice will certainly and surely grind.
We are grateful for your time. You had the Ningo Pram MP Sam George. You also had the Deputy Information Minister Pius Hajide. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time on this. We'll also hear the opposition. They've been talking about this. But if you visit myjoyonline.com, of course, you will get the full white paper as well as the Commission's report there as well. But let's move on to some other stories here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM. Do join us also with your thoughts and comments via WhatsApp on 0244 340 437, because the 2019 or 2020 general elections is just a year away. But already the red flag has been raised against the Electoral Commission's handling of electoral-related issues ahead of the polls. The largest opposition party, the NDC, is in court challenging what they described as the EC's decision not to furnish them with certified provisional copies of the 2019 voters register just a day before the exhibition ends. According to the party, the action of the EC is unlawful, biased and calculated to give unfair advantage to the main opponent, which is the governing NPP. Addressing a news conference at the party's headquarters, National Chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, said the EC, by its action, is demonstrating total incompetence in the handling of matters so far.
We have only 1 day left for the exhibition of the voter register to close. Jenson Bosman-Asare team has not provided the NDC with a copy of the 2019 provisional register as required by law. According to Regulation 22.2 of the Public Election Regulations, Voter Registration CI 91, and I quote, "At the end of the compilation of the provisional register as provided in Sub-Regulation 1, a copy of the provisional register shall be given to each registered political party in a form determined by the Commission." I mean, in 1996 and 2000, they were giving it to us in hard copies. But I think from 2012 to 2016, the Electoral Commission decided to give it to us in soft copies. In other words, they give it a soft copy and the political parties themselves will print it and use it. But as we speak to you now, sadly, the Electoral Commission has refused to make available a copy of the provisional register in a form, any form that they determine to we the political parties. I'm talking for the NDC. It has, however, been alleged that the EC has allegedly selectively made copies of the provisional register available to our main political opponent, the MPP. But in our case, despite repeated requests and reminders, we have not received any. In the circumstance, we have been compelled to go to court for an order directed at the Jimensa Bosman-Asare Commission to, among others, give us copies of the register as required by law. And I think that our legal team just returned from the court with the suit that they have filed against the Electoral Commission. Gentlemen, Regulation 23.3 also states that the Commission shall, in addition to the publication provided in Sub-Regulation 1, post the provisional register on the website of the EC, that is www.ec.gov.gh. Our last visit to www.ec.gov.gh shows that this has not been done.
Now, the Electoral Commission is expected to close exhibition of the voters register tomorrow, and barring any challenge, the document will represent the main tool in determining eligibility of voters in the 2020 general elections. The NDC is, however, alleging of attempts to suppress numbers in its strongholds ahead of the polls. Here's the National Chairman again, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo.
The preponderance of irregularities and unnecessary impediment in almost all activities undertaken since Jimensa and Bosman-Asare took office are not teething problems. They are deliberate ploy. Their posture gives us cause for concern. From the shambolic referendum on the creation of new regions last year, the poorly organized limited registration exercise, and to the current problems with the voter exhibition exercise, a pattern has emerged of a conscious plan to suppress votes in NDC strongholds whilst ensuring an increase in the voting population in NPP strongholds. We invite you, the media, civil society, the General Moral Society, and the diplomatic community to closely monitor the conduct of Mensa and Bosman Asare. We must make common cause.
You heard that the national chairman of the NDC, Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo, I've been joined on the phone, thankfully, by the director of communications of the Electoral Commission and, of course, the director, communications officer of the NDC, Sami Jemfi, as well. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen, here on Newsnight. I would start with you, Madam Sylvia Ano. This is about the second time the NDC is raising concerns about not providing them with a copy of the provisional register ahead of the exhibition exercise. They've proceeded to court on this matter. But what exactly is the EC's position on this issue?
Thank you very much, and then good evening to your listeners. Yes, truly the NDC applied for the provisional registers given them, I think on 2 occasions, and the Commission has indicated that it would do so in earnest. And from the press briefing or the press conference that they had, they accused the EC of deliberately, refusing to give them the voters register, the provisional voters register. But that is not the case. The Electoral Commission is in the process of getting the provisional voters registers ready, to be supplied all the political parties that applied, to be given copies. And let me say that the Electoral Commission has also not flouted any law, because or the EC has not acted in contravention of Article 22(1) of CI 91, and we want to make it clear that the CI mandates the EC to provide a copy of the provisional register to political parties no later than 3 months of the end of the registration exercise. And for your information, I want to state that the registration exercise took place from the 17th of June to the 7th of July. So it means that the EC has until the end of September to submit the provisional voters register to the political parties, and for that matter, the NDC. And we are working around the clock, despite our busy schedules, to make sure that they are given copies of the provisional voters register.
So you're within the time frame to give them a copy of the register, but we are told that other political parties, including the NPP, have been furnished with a copy of this same register that you're refusing to give to the NDC.
It's not true.
It's not?
It's not true. No. It's not
okay,
true.
So we've just heard the General Secretary of the NPP, for instance, on our sister station, Asempa, saying they have a copy of the provisional register. How did they get it?
I'm yet to listen to, because the information that I was given here is that the NPP has not received the provisional voters register. So I cannot be on air and talk about something that I do not know about. Respectfully, these are the facts that I have, and I would want to present them as such.
But according to the NDC, for instance, they feel that you're giving their opponents an unfair advantage ahead of them. What would it actually take for them to get a copy of this so that at least we can all have some peace?
The EC always, we always make sure that there is a level playing field. So that if that is the reason we always have IPAC meetings to talk about issues, we operate an open door policy so that if any political party has issues, they have the right and the opportunity to approach the election management body And therefore, we would have wished that the NDC, hello? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, madam. We are listening.
Yes. So let me say that we operate an open door policy. So any political that has issues with the electoral process has the right, to approach the Electoral Commission to dialogue or to communicate and make sure that all the issues are resolved amicably.
Well, let's bring in Mr. Sammy Gyamfi. Mr. Sammy Gyamfi, so you've heard Madam Sylvia, and I also have a copy of the statement from the Electoral Commission. Amongst others, it says that the Commission believes that the allegations were calculated and targeted at creating an erroneous impression about the EC and causing disaffection between its leadership and the general public. Why would you do that?
Thank you, my sister. We are only playing our role as a political party and a key stakeholder in Ghana's democratic experiment, and we are determined to keep the Electoral Commission in check and to ensure that they conduct their affairs in a free, fair, and transparent manner. Now, however, let me say that it is a tragedy that the Jean Mensah-led Electoral Commission cannot even read and interpret basic provisions of the law. I am very surprised that the EC will say that they have not violated Regulation 22, Sub-Regulation 2 of CI 91, and that they are within the stipulated time frame. My sister, Regulation 22 is very clear. What Regulation 22, Sub-Regulation 1 says is that at the end of the registration process, the Electoral Commission has not later than 3 months within which to compile a provisional register. So the 3 months provided under Regulation 22 has to do with the compilation of a provisional register at the end of the registration process. Now, Regulation 22, Sub-Regulation 2 says that at the end of the compilation of the provisional register, the Electoral Commission shall provide each registered political party with a copy of this provisional register. So, you registered people under the limited registration exercise we just had, within the stipulated 3 months, you compiled a provisional register. Okay,
but they are in the process of compilation, so they say it ends in September. So,
if they are in the process of compiling, what are they exhibiting? A provisional register has been compiled, and that is why the EC is currently conducting an exhibition exercise. What has been exhibited out there, what has been displayed for public inspection, is a provisional register and a final register. So the EC currently has a provisional register. Now, once you are done with the compilation, it is automatic. You must, in fact, the operative term there is shall, mandatory, provide political parties with a copy of it. It doesn't give you 3 months again, because you now have a provisional register. And the purpose of the law is to enable political parties to effectively monitor the exhibition process. And so if you only provide political parties with copies of the provisional register after the exhibition and adjudication process, then of what use would that register be? So I entreat you to take a look at Regulation 22 again, and you will see that the interpretation being put on that provision is palpably flawed and underscores the crass incompetence and cluelessness of the Jean Mensah Electoral Commission that we have been talking about.
So you are in court over this matter? You are in court over this?
Yeah, we've gone to court. But let me also make this matter that it is very sad and unfortunate for the Electoral Commission to suggest that the NDC has not explored any means of engaging them in a dialogue over these issues. MFR, we have written 3 separate letters to the Electoral Commission, and all are repeated and persistent efforts at getting them to provide us with this information which is available have been unheeded. And that has greatly hampered our, efforts at monitoring the process, for which reason we have gone to court. So let no one suggest that the NDC woke up one day and decided to go to court without engaging the Electoral Commission. Now, this is not the only pertinent issue we have raised.
Mm-hmm.
We have also raised a serious matter which has to do with the printing of the provisional registers. Over the years, the Electoral Commission has been printing these registers itself because they have the capacity to do so. It was so under Afarijan, it was so under Charlotte Osei, and so on. For some inexplicable reasons, the Jimensa Bosmanasare-led East has decided to give the printing of this year's provisional register to a third party. We are not saying that there is anything wrong with that. They can say that they went through the procurement law and all that. Our main concern is that we have not been involved in the process. We don't know who is printing it, where it is being printed. Our agents are not there to monitor the process. And that contravenes the conventions that we've been using in our electoral system over the years and undermines the transparency and credibility of the whole register. Again, we are saying that the magnitude and the preponderance of anomalies in this so-called provisional register, which has been exhibited across the country, it gives us cause to worry.
Well, most of these issues were also raised by the national chairman. But let's allow the EC to give you a response, which is why you held that press conference, Madam Sylviano. So a number of issues that the NDC is raising. You've addressed the part about why you are not giving them the provisional register. You've heard him. He says that the CI 9122-2 does not give you the leverage that you're talking about, that you have up until September to do so. They've also questioned why a third party is printing materials. The last time it came up, you were going to check for us. You have an answer to that now.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me say that he indicated that the NDC has gone to court on the issue. So I'd like for the court to give the interpretation. Once the matter has been sent to court, because this is our side, or this is how we, at the EC, understand the issues at stake. So let the court so decide. Let the court so give the interpretation of what the CI relating to the provision of the provisional voters register really means. Now, regarding the printing of the provisional voters register, see, at the end of the during the registration period, at the end of each day, you have the printout, daily printout being given to all the political parties. And then they also have a way of verifying and checking their details. Moreover, the printing house that won this bid went through the procurement process. And let me say that in 2008, even when the parties were asked to come for the printed copies of the voters register, only 2 political parties came and collected them. And the essence of the exhibition exercise is to make sure that we correct all anomalies.
Okay.
This is a provisional register. It is not the final register. And the essence of the EC giving copies to the political parties to make sure that they go through and then check for any infractions of anomalies, so that if there are any red flags, they can raise it, they can make constructive criticisms, and so on and so forth.
Okay, but so just before I let you off though, Madam Sylviano, I earlier told you about the MPP's access to the register. Is it a matter that the EC will be probing?
What I do know here, respectfully, is that the MPP has not been given the provisional voters register.
They've not.
The information I'm having at the moment.
But I just told you that we've heard on our sister station that the NPP says they have access to it. Is it a matter that you're going to look into?
That is what you are telling me. But what I do know from from here is that the NPP has not been furnished with the provisional voters register.
We're grateful for your time. The Madam Sylviano is Director of Communications for the Electoral Commission. They're raising or responding to issues raised by the NDC, and we're told that they are in court over the matter as to why they've not been provided with a copy of the provisional register, amongst others. George Rafi joins us with the latest from the world of business. George, what's in business?
Well, MFA, coming up in business, complaints against insurance firms increased by more than 200% for last year. Meanwhile, 9 million persons have insurance cover in the country. And government reacts to recent Economist Intelligence Unit report on management of the economy. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank. We are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank. How can we help you?
So everyone says I'm a Kosia filler, but it's not like I'm nosy or go out to find out the latest filler. It's just that I get 50 megabytes of data free after paying for only the first minute of every call. And so I just keep discovering stuff minute after minute. That's how come I was minding my business, scrolling through my timeline, and I found out Coco has a new baby. Oh, and last week, I learned Ken won the lottery. You see, Ken is my brother's friend. So hello, look who's about to roll with the rich and famous.
Enjoy even more value with MTN Free After One. You only pay for the first minute of your call on MTN Free After One, and the rest is free. Plus, you enjoy free 50 megabytes worth of data to browse your favorite sites. Compare where, compare there. So dial *315# to sign up. We day for you everywhere you go. Terms and conditions apply.
Kingdom Books this year back to school promotion is in conjunction with Citidia Supermarket. Buy school items worth 100 Ghana cedis from Kingdom Books and get 12% discount voucher to purchase from Citidia and vice versa. School items include textbooks, pens, pencils, erasers, exercise books across all Kingdom Books branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, and Cape Coast. Kingdom Books, where quality and affordability is assured. For further information, call 0302-764209 or 0302-746101 and 0501-401050. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, complaints against insurance firms in the country witnessed some significant increase for last year. According to the 2018 National Insurance Report, it jumped by 267%. There is more in this Business Desk report.
The report showed that the National Insurance Commission in 2018 received 1,169 complaints from the public and organizations as compared to 291 complaints received in 2017. According to the Commission, a significant portion of the complaints were related to the insurance firm ESIC. In terms of the sector's breakdown, 776 of the complaints covered life insurance, while the rest were non-life. Star Assurance also had the highest complaints in the non-life business. It also emerged that only 30% of the population had insurance cover in 2018. This should mean that if the current size of the population is 30 million, there may just be about 9 million people in the country who have insurance cover. Total premium paid in 2018 stood at 2.9 billion cedis, while profits was 202 million cedis. Government secured about 36 million cedis as taxes from all the insurance companies.
And that was a Business Desk report. Now, government says it feels vindicated by the recent report by the Economist Intelligence Unit on management of the economy. The September country report on Ghana noted that this administration could win the next election because of the fact that it has the safe pair of hands to manage the economy. It however raised concerns about possible budget overruns for this year. Speaking to Joy Business, Deputy Minister of Finance Abenosi Asari says measures have been already instituted to deal with any potential overruns.
Here we are, 2-3 years down the line, we are out of the IMF, and then we have put checks and balances in place to see to it that we don't go back to, the IMF. One is with the Fiscal Responsibility Act, where Parliament has passed a law that we can't go beyond 5% of our deficit. All these things helps us, puts us in check. Secondly, we have formed partnership, that's the social partnership with labor, employers and governments, that here we are, we believe we can be our own IMF. Let us come up with targets and policies that together we will work to achieve this. And once we achieve this, we believe we can be our own IMF, we can act as a check on ourselves. Government, that's the MPP government headed by the President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we're spearheading these things. So certainly in the long run, things are going to be better.
Deputy Minister of Finance Abna Osei-Asare. Now, economist Professor Peter Korte is kicking against proposals for government to focus on the services sector following its stellar performance. The GDP estimates over the past years have shown that the services sector contributed significantly with minimal support. The second quarter estimate showed that the sector covered about 50% of the economy and helped drive the 5.7% jump in economic growth. But Professor Peter Korte tells Joy Business focusing on the sector alone is not sustainable.
If you look at employment trajectory, you will find that it is manufacturing and agriculture that employs a greater proportion of the labor force. So if that sector is not growing, if the share of these two sectors are not growing as rapidly as the services sector, then it becomes a problem. The financial sector grew by 1.4%. It tells you that sector is picking up from the cleanup. So you will find that a lot of people have lost jobs within that sector. So if manufacturing, agriculture is not growing that much to absorb some of this labor, we're going to have a problem.
What would you tell those who might say that the little support for the services sector appears to be doing so well?
Yes, you have a point there, but you see, you want to diversify your economy. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Now, God forbid that something happens within the services sector and there's a slump. What happens? Your economy is going to go down.
Economist and director of ISE, Professor Peter Korte. Now, lawyer for Dr. Kwaku Asindum has assured the court that he will properly serve the receiver of GN Savings and Loans before the next court hearing date. Now, this follows an order by the High Court for the receiver to actually be properly served. Here is Eben Sabote's report.
The courts presided over by Justice George Kumsin ordered that the application in its current form cannot be heard because the fourth defendant, which is GN Savings and Loans, is in receivership and must therefore be reflected. Earlier, lawyer for the receiver, Philip Addison, raised an objection that even though his client is supposed to be a part of the case, he wasn't served appropriately. This compelled the counsel for Dr. Papa Kwesi Indum, Justice Ramsai, to challenge the argument and indicated that the recipient acted on behalf of the receiver of GN Savings and Loans, Eric Nananipa. The court therefore ordered the plaintiff to amend his application to reflect the current status of GN Savings and Loans Limited. According to Justice Kumsin, since GN Savings and Loans is in receivership, it is prudent to amend the application to be fair. Dr. Indum and Group Indum last month filed an application in court to challenge the Bank of Ghana and its agents from carrying out any action that will lead to the liquidation of GN Savings and Loans Limited. Present in court were top management members of Group Indum and sub-customers of GN. The case has been adjourned to 24th of September. Efforts to get counsel of both parties was not successful.
And that was Eben Sabote's report. Now, the Public Interest and Accountability Committee has vowed to sustain pressure on government on prudent use of oil resources. The chairman of the committee, Dr. Steve Mantea, said this at the opening of the committee's new office at East Legon here in Accra.
Two of PIAC's critical issues have been sorted out. One had to do with the budgetary allocations. With the amendments of the Petroleum Revenue Management Act in 2015, now PIAC is being allocated a budget from the revenues that we derive from the oil. We have now been able to get them a permanent accommodation.
And that was the Deputy Minister of Finance, Abna Osei-Asare, speaking about the new offices of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee here at East Legon in Accra. On the stock market, MTN was down by a peswa to close at 70 pesos. Total also lost a peswa and is now worth 3 cedis. ETI lost a peswa and is now worth 10 pesos. Losing strength for most of these companies listed on the Ghana Stock Exchange. But the managers are saying that things are being put in place to ensure that it bounces back to good. Give you, Emifa,
some more shares,
good returns on the stock market.
Of course. Well, thank you very much, George Riafe, with the latest from the world of business. Now let's talk about the Joy Clean Ghana campaign. And today the team were in Choko, a suburb of Accra, and the residents there were given 3 months to build toilet facilities and 48 hours to improve the unsanitary conditions or face the law. But before I tell you about that too, I'm sure you remember last week the team were in Jamestown amidst a lot of drama, and the food vendor who was caught storing plantain by the toilet has been fined $1,200 200 Ghana cedis and asked to relocate or face more sanctions. Now, she was prosecuted this morning after a bench warrant was issued for her arrest. You recall that Vivian Aite was given 48 hours to improve the sanitary conditions in her home when the team visited Jamestown last week. Like I said, we can hear from Nancy Emefa-Dwadosi. She has a wrap of day 3 of the Joy Clean Ghana campaign.
The team was first met with a filthy gutter that had been choked with solid and liquid waste. The operators of the shops along the drain were, however, reluctant when they were asked to desilt it.
Go and bring brooms, all of you. Go and bring brooms. If you don't have some, close the. Give me way. Come out. All of you should come out. We'll close the place.
It took the assemblyman's intervention to get them working. In another house visited by the team, the bathroom, which had been taken over by algae, had 2 trash bins, with one containing human excreta.
Toilet. So why can't we live with cholera within the area? If you have toilet like this, in the bathroom, and this way the children
How can you put a boiler in a bathroom?
So are we the people who carry the toilet and came and put it?
The fish smoking station right next to the bathroom was, however, the main concern of the team.
Just prepare them for court. Prepare the absence of toilet facility, and then sanitary bathroom mixed with refuse, mixed with human excreta, exposed to flies, and close to a fish smoking system.
It turned out the next house also had no toilet. At a point, it was as though Choco was a breeding ground for flies. One other house was preparing a meal of banku under very unhygienic conditions.
You heard the Nancy Emefa-Dwadosi's report. Meanwhile, Environmental Health Director Joseph Asetinga has revealed that the food vendor from Jamestown, who has been fined and asked to immediately relocate her goods or face more sanctions, he's been speaking to us about it.
Yeah, the woman with the plantain, her case was exceptional. Where she was operating was nothing to write home about. And we quickly served her summons the following day. The court was adjourned. Today, the case appeared in court. And I learned she has been fined. I don't know exactly. I've not yet got the figures of the fine. I've not got the figures of the fine. So I'm yet to confirm the figures of the fine and the conditions attached to the fine.
Well, in Kumasi, the Love FM KMA task force were also at work today, and they evaded a prostitution joint where we are told they openly defecate in a gutter. Erastus Osari-Donko has more in this report.
Why the place is dirty? Because there is not enough of the environmental issues. I didn't mean that the government put enough people working for the environment, at least weekly, every Saturday is okay. Saturday is meant for cleanup. For every environment. That one is
your
okay.
Environment is dirty.
It's okay.
And you have
that
many Saturdays.
Every Saturday. That means they're not coming over this place for every Saturday. If the government provides people for here.
But you live in an environment
I
like
live in
this.
an environment.
You expect somebody to come and clean it.
We do clean it. When the government come and the environment is not okay for them. You understand? They have the every power to empowered for people to
so
come and work.
So how do you feel about today's
here.
Exercise? We've asked you, we've
for me,
forced you to clean.
I'm okay. For me particularly, I'm okay. They say charity begins at home. The work I do here today, I don't regret it.
Erastus Osari-Donko interacting with one of the offenders. In the meantime, keep your environment clean because you never know, the team will be in your area next. Now it's time for Tech Thursday, and farmers and market women lose up to 50% of perishable vegetables as a result of poor storage. Traders say this wipes out their profits and sometimes their entire investment. We have a new group, or is a group of innovators in this year's Cosmos Innovation Centers Agritech, and they have a solution. They have built a solar-powered cold room to preserve perishable vegetables. Joy News' Henry Kwesibedu's report read to you for Tech Thursday.
According to Ghana's Food and Agriculture Ministry, farmers and vegetable sellers lose up to a third of their vegetables after harvest. Here at the Konkombo market, one of the country's biggest foodstuff markets, the losses are negatively affecting vegetable sellers.
My tomatoes deteriorate by the day, and I have to go through the pain of sorting them daily. Some perish as a result. I sometimes lose a third of my produce and make lots of losses.
Thermostor is in the final of this year's KIC Agritech Challenge and has built a solar-powered cold room for a 24/7 off-grid storage and preservation of perishable vegetables.
Instead of taking the tomatoes to a place where they will be hot, where they won't be well covered, where pests and then rodents will go and eat it, you can bring it to a safe place like Thermostor and then we can keep it for you. This thing is a wonder in cost cutting because we've tried to utilize very local materials to achieve the same purpose.
The device enables farmers and market women to place their produce in plastic crates for storage. According to the team that built the system, the innovation extends the shelf life of fruits and vegetables by about 2 weeks.
This thing should be able to keep it for as long as a whole month. However, the Thermostor brand is not to try to experiment with our customers. So our promise is that I can keep it for up to 14 days, which is 2 weeks.
And that's for Tech Thursday. Henry Kwesibedu's report read to you. And the day we've all been waiting for is almost or finally here. And that's the Joy News Habitat Fair. It's happening tomorrow at the Accra International Conference Center. I'll give you more about that. But tonight we're talking about securing a property. And one of the main preoccupations of the owner is to furnish the space, from room fittings to furniture and electronic gadgets. But there are a few fire safety tips you need to know with barely 24 hours to that Grand Joy News Habitat Fair. We've been speaking to the Assistant Director Safety of the Ghana National Fire Service, Michael Kosa.
Every building is supposed to have an alternative exit so that when something happens, you would use an alternative exit. We are also advising that most of the buildings you find commonly that is being barricaded, and we are saying that use the collapsible one so that when something happens, you will just pull it, fold it, and you escape. Apart from that, we tell them that don't overcrowd your hall. So we teach them basic safety procedures and tips that will help them, aid them when something happens. Now, if it's in the night and it so happened accidentally where the room is engulfed, all right, we ask you to go down because every hot gas rises and you find fresh air down. So we teach them all these techniques, how to, don't go across the room, but go by the wall. So we don't advise people to arrange furniture against the wall so that when it happens and light goes off and the room is dark, you would use the wall to guide you out. We always advise them that don't overload.
And the fire service will be there tomorrow at the Accra International Conference Center where the fair opens to give you more of these safety tips. You can visit their stand as well as a number of exhibitors. Anything home, when you think home, you need to think of the Habitat Fair. And the Joy News Habitat Fair is brought to you by Elegant Homes and General Construction, where quality meets value. We have Super Sim, cement, build your dream. We also have Pet Talk and timeless architectural fittings. We have Vodafone fixed broadband. Vodafone, the future is exciting. We also have DBS Roofing Papa, and then also McDuncan Company Limited, Building Futures, and of course the LB Realty as well. And we have sports.
Yes,
enhancements.
Have you picked up your forms yet?
For what?
You don't want to be a FA president?
No.
Oh,
no.
That's sad.
No, thank you.
I was really rooting for you.
So how many people now?
Well, so we can confirm that 5 people so far have picked up forms.
Has been saying something interesting about them.
Now, nominations for the Ghana FA presidential elections opened on Monday and will close tomorrow, 20th of September 2019. 5 persons have so far picked up forms to confirm their interest in replacing former President Kwesi Nyantakyi, who, as you know, is currently serving a lifetime ban from football as a result of allegations from the Anas Arimea Anas number 12 documentary. The 5 persons are Dreams FC owner Keto Kweku, former executive committee member of the FA, Winfred Osei-Kweku Palmer, former FA vice president George Afriyie, and legal practitioner Amanda Clinton.
Okay. The same Amanda Clinton.
Yeah, the same Amanda Clinton.
We look forward to that.
Very interesting. Then the FA presidential election is slated for the 25th of October. So these are the 5 persons that Joy Sports can confirm have picked up nomination forms.
Thank you very much, Hans Mensando. Just before we go, though, some of your comments that you sent in via WhatsApp. Nuruddin in Asokori, Kumasi says, how then should the Commission of Inquiry recommend someone's prosecution if they know those who appear before them cannot be prosecuted? He says we should educate him. That's some of your comments. And this one also from... we have it from Jeffrey Afeku in Keta. He says, are we safe in this country? If you're not ready to accept the Commission's report, then what is the essence of forming the Commission of Inquiry? Or the President is happy about the Ayawaso West Wogon violence? It's a question he's asking. And this one also says the government is just toying with the hearts of Ghanaians with the Justice Short Commission's findings, like ex-President Mahama did with the recommendations from Brazil 2014 World Cup scandal. Our thumbs will issue the real white paper in 2020. Samuel Mensah in Kumasi sent that one in. And that's how we wrap up this evening's edition of Newsnight here on Joy 99.7 FM. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Personality profile with Lexis Bill is up next. And guess who our guest is tonight? Mr. Kofi Odro, the founder and leader of Alabaster Box Ministries International. Prophet is a prophet. There will be a lot of prophecies tonight. Do stay.